coming to the presentation as such, I always believe that dreams are, something which are the blueprint for our aspirations. And as long as we believe in them fiercely and tirelessly, we always witness that magic that transforms actually into reality. And it has happened for me and for my own journey as such. I've been, I'm a mother of two kids actually, and two handful, obviously. So, and I have my own journey of, taking a break as a mother and making sure that, I'm doing justice to my own career and also being part of the system as such to do best in my journey as such. And, to start with, I would say that, yes, as I So .NET Basic, what we see is typical HTML, JS, CSS, the JavaScript, and the web services. This is something which we ought to know on the as a .NET Basic, and I'm sure you would be able to relate to it. Now, coming to the next level, when we see, there has been, tech evolution where we saw the WCF, the Windows Communication Foundation or the Platform Foundation or Workflow Foundation has actually been placed. I you know I don't know how many of you are actually also participating and doing participating in the WPF or WCF, that kind of a coding as well. MVC architecture, the model view controller architecture, I'm sure this is the core thing which actually also evolved around the same time, where we also look at the .NET MVC, but parallelly the web APIs also came into existence. The SQL Server, now that the NoSQL and Oracle, technology has always been there, we always seen that, yes, these are the typical technologies which we have seen that, it has contributed to our, technology, career as such, right? And I have also been part of the CLR performance profilers, which I have used in my early days of career. When I was about 5-6 years of my tech experience, I had attained the Microsoft certification that time, and also the Microsoft Architect certification I've done in those days. This was about 20 years back, is what I'm saying. And I think .NET used to evolve at that time, where Oracle, SQL Server, and but then CLR profiler also was not many of the developers used to use the CLR profiler. But then when I made a difference to that, I could really see that the kind of coding and the change what I could bring in terms of the performance of the code itself was actually enormous. Even similarly, SQL Profiler, I'm sure if you have also used it. So these are all troubleshooting and profiling kind of softwares which .NET also provides. And invariably you're also expected to know the design patterns. I'm sure you people who have been working on the .NET Core or the full stack, you are supposed to know the design patterns as well. So these are the basic things which you are supposed to know. And as your experience further evolves, you also look at that, now that the MVC and web API has been unified under the MVC core stack, right? So I'll not get into the details of each of these technologies. There is ample information available to us. You could actually go through and understand where your technology experience has been, how you have actually evolved in each of these spaces, and where your performance has been. See, it's not about doing just as a development as a programmer, right? Programming is only one part. How are we really inclined towards day-to-day functions? Any company puts the job certain expectations on the job responsibilities we have, either from a design aspect or the overall architecture of the application we are building, or be it the the testing angle in terms of how are we different doing making an effort in terms of creating an application which is good in performance, and is able to look at the integration aspects, the other technical elements which I will talk about in the next set of slides. But this is something which we have to also see that, yes, it was just .NET MVC to start with earlier. Then the web APIs also evolved so much. Then the the unified MVC core stack has come into play, and this is where we are seeing that full stack expectation, and more or less every company is actually expecting us to know end to end from the front end to back end to the database development, right? So this is where I'm sure ORM framework, if you have heard of the ORM framework, entity and the ORM framework, as you can see, it is particularly developed to advance the ADO.NET to really, on the ADO.NET side, actually, we have the ORM framework playing there. But when you, as when you come in as a full stack developer, you are required to understand the front end technologies. As in, you can see that the Angular and React stack is actually picked up very well, and most of the .NET technologies, what I have seen in the market are the company developers are actually more on the Angular front. I think Angular front, the salaries are also a bit higher because the demand on the Angular side is more compared to the React JS. So this is also something which you can pick up and see, how you're actually able to build on your skills in terms of your, the front end layer, the middle tier, and also the database tier, right? So the multi-tier architecture, how do we really look at it? So I'm sure in the second stage, if you see, multi-tier architecture has always been there from the beginning, but then, even in the multi-layer architecture, we have seen the evolution happening in terms of how each of these technologies, in terms of the libraries, the .NET has actually, put across in terms of the different functional aspects, the ETL libraries, or be it the libraries on the ML front, with AI and ML technologies evolving. We'll talk about the ML.NET also in the next set of slides, where how the ML.NET actually evolved from the core.NET API or the core.NET stack as such, right? Then you'll also have to see the cross-platform engagement. How are you really looking at the UI toolkit, which is what we have, and what kind of libraries are we given? So time to time we will have to see how these the web API framework or the MVC framework or Blazor, if you have come across or been using the Blazor framework as such, against each of these frameworks, what we have, we do get the toolkits or the libraries against each of these functionalities, wherever we are seeing either in the to operate in the middle tier or the database layer or in the front end layer, right? So apart from that, there is an expectation that when you get to this level, you also understand what is agile practices. Can you also perform a role of a scrum practitioner, if you're actually leading a particular team, or have some good technology understanding across some of these different core technologies. You also are expected to the lead a team, and in that case, you're also expected to understand the agile and scrum practice, as a scrum practitioner, and then make sure that you can educate the teams on that fronts, right? The sprint meetings and all that, whatever we do, the expectation on each of these sprint meetings is that outcome based approach, what we are doing. And each of these development, either we are contributing onto the front end side or back end side, or full stack development, how are we really engaging the teams and making sure that the agile practices are taken into that sprint timelines, whatever we are actually considering, like 15 days sprint or 20 days, typically 15 days as we look at, right? So how do we really make sure that we are aligning our teams to these small snippets of code which gets really released in an agile way? Next, we also look at that the cloud technologies is, has evolved. Cloud technologies has always been there, 10, 15 years, but in initial days, it was not so much accepted widely. But right now, as you can see that the Microsoft Azure itself has its own web apps and, certain APIs. Azure API is what you can actually look at to integrate the cloud aspects and the building in the technologies, right? Technical elements for each of these platforms. Whether you are building a Windows application or be it a web application, you also look at each of these practices in terms of how we can engage on a time to time, as we progress in building our technology stack. Yeah. So next comes the microservices, the Docker, the CI/CD, the DevOps, and the Kubernetes. So microservices, as you can see, this has also picked up well. So in each of these spaces, if you see that we are .NET Basic, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or web services, any employee around 2 to 5 years of experience is expected to have this kind of experience. Next, if I move in the MVC architecture, or the .NET MVC, web APIs, having a SQL Server understanding and the knowledge on the SQL joins or the SQL, as simple as the basic SQL Server, and ADO.NET features. It is important for us to really look at those, and how do you really performance, your applications, look at these unit testing or integration testing, or be it performance testing, or be it the profilers, whatever you can use in each of these, building the code, whatever you have, whether you've been able to be up to the mark and improve the performance of the overall engagement and on the application, and source to different sources or integration platforms whichever we are developing between the legacy systems, or be it the different products which we are actually bringing together. How do we really make sure that the data schemas are built, and against these data schemas, if either we are using the ETL functions, or be it the web APIs, right? How do we really make sure that each of these technologies are integrated into our day-to-day development activities? So this is the outlook which we expect from a 4 to 10 years experienced person. If you see, the sooner you achieve this kind of technology and the mindset, mainly the mindset in terms of not just developing a code, but also looking at the end picture of the business need, and understanding our business, the core business need, not about just the understanding the use cases, building the use cases and coming up with a design and approach or the development activity and doing the testing. Not just about that, but also understanding the business need. In if I do not develop this particular feature of, or a particular functionality under a particular feature, or a use case doesn't get doesn't work properly, what is the impact it is going to create for the business, and how is it going to impact the bottom line for the business to operate in a certain scenarios, right, for the use cases which we are being developed. So I think this is the mindset which is very, very important when you have reached that certain stage of around more than 3 years of experience. Once you have actually gained, you also have to look at this particular mindset of how people have to see yourself in terms of how business is going to get impacted in a particular feature if there is doesn't go live, or a particular feature doesn't happen in the way it's supposed to function. Now, coming to the 5 and 15 years experience, this is where next level of mind shift comes, where you're talking about the different platforms, the orchestration techniques. Let us say if you are looking at the integration technologies, the different kind of orchestration techniques you are provided. The core stack as such is there, but apart from that, you also look at the either the batch processing functions, or be it the web APIs, which actually gets you to get the data transfers done between the different integrated platforms. How do we make sure that availability, dependability, reliability, and also getting the data in the specific timelines, this has become also very important. This actually defines the product quality as such. So time to market is very, very important, and time to reflect on the data on the application is very important. So by this time, you should be very clear on the troubleshooting techniques. You should be very clear on the performance profilers, and you should also understand what are the kind of architectural patterns which we have, not only on the design front, but also on the core aspects of different architectural principles which can be brought in terms of developing such and such applications, whether it is a platform based applications, or be it or be it the web applications, right? So and again, most of the companies are moving into the cloud based solutions. Now cloud based solutions also expose a certain set of challenges in terms of standardization. Standardization, certain APIs which happen to work in Amazon may or may not work in Azure, and how is the compatibility which we are actually building. So today's application, let us say tomorrow it gets hosted into a different cloud solution, or different cloud solution, platform. How do we ensure that these cross platform application scenarios are also being addressed? So as in, when you are actually developing your skill set, you also have to see that it's not about just getting a particular application, or web application being downloaded in the Chrome, or let us say Firefox, or let us say Internet Explorer, or anything, right? These are all basic things which you ought to make sure that we are creating platform agnostic application. But beyond that, also making sure that our applications and web APIs, or be it the web apps, whatever we are actually developing, it is also being able to run either on the Linux machine, or be it on the Windows machine, or let us take an example of the cloud technologies. How do we really ensure that such and such applications are there is no dependency on the cloud technologies and the platforms wherever we are going to get hosted on, right? So this is something which you'll have to get to that kind of a mindset, where you're actually utilizing your skills not only to the expense of looking at that, yes, the applications development as such, the development scenarios, the different frameworks what you have at your expense, and also the architectural patterns whatever we have, and the obviously the full stack understanding from the front end to the back end. How do we really achieve that? Not only that, but then beyond that, how do we really make sure that our platforms or applications, or APIs whatever we are developing, it is actually able to function and give us that edge of being deployed in multiple platforms, right? Next comes, when you see that the expectation on the higher end, if you see that around 8 years of experience people are also contributing to the microservices and Dockers, or we have seen the people typically contributing to these technologies on with a higher experience as well. So, and how the sooner you develop this, the mindset in terms of the overall engagement, overall performance of the applications, the better your salaries are, the better your outlook is, the better engagement you can create, and people will start believing in you that you are just not a programmer, or a full stack developer, or a .NET person, who is actually bringing some skill and to that table. But beyond that, you're also making sure that the business mind and the mindset of developing to the need of the market, understanding the business scenarios. So every individual, as a each company expects that you also look at these additional skills, and the more holistic you become in terms of your domain understanding, your functional understanding, and the development as such, whatever you bring to the table, that mindset is something which is every company looks forward to, and that is how you grow faster in the companies, given that edge of the skill what you can actually showcase in the market, right? So, and believe me, this is something which I had done in my own career journey. When I started off, as I started with as a .NET, in fact ASP, and then I learned .NET. Then I became the .NET Microsoft .NET expert. After that, I did the Microsoft SQL Server, and then .NET certification on the architect front. So it, even if I have not contributed to the architect roles directly, but I had been able to contribute to the architectural designs, whatever we used to put forward in terms of the proposals. right? Project proposals which used to go out from the table for the different engagements, the client engagements. I used to be part and parcel of the core sales team to become, part of that, documentation efforts, which actually happen either from a technical standpoint or from an architectural standpoint. So this has actually always put me in the next role and engagement, because people believed in me that I'm not just a developer, I'm actually able to contribute in actual, sales and development, and the demos which we actually used to participate. They used to make sure that I've also been participating in the project demos and, the overall engagement, because I knew how to handle the queries of the people and, the customers or the clients. And I used to prepare myself for such and such queries in terms of the technology or the, activities, whatever is happening, whether we are in the design phase or development phase or in the testing phase. I can answer their queries to the point, while, I'm able to address. So you need not be the project lead or the project manager to, be part and parcel of such and such activities. This will also give you a very good mindset, and that's how I have grown, believe me. I had two maternities. My first kid I had in 2006 actually, and just those days I was working in 2006. I was working in TCS, and just after the maternity, I came back and I joined back TCS. 3 months maternity leave. Those days we were not given 6 months of maternity leaves. It was only 3 months of maternity which was given, and by December, I joined back, and January, I was promoted actually. So, and similar thing, it happened. I had my second kid in 2009, and 2009, after a longer break, I took actually, I had to take again 3 months of maternity, but then I had to take a 9 months break, because now at that time my hands were full, and I had already had a, less than 3-year-old kid at hand, and my, other kid, was just at a very nascent stage. So I had to give my time to the family. After 9 months of coming, that break, when I came back and joined in the month of June, believe me, July, I was again promoted to senior project manager. So why this can happen only when you know that, yes, you probably took a break for yourself for whatever reason. It could be a family, it could be your kids, it could be your parents, it could be anything. But that break, whatever you have taken for a reason, you could also develop yourself during that break, and possibly look at some other technical elements which you can actually improve upon your own skills, do another round of domain certification or architect certification, anything which, you can do something during your free time, and then contribute to your own growth. And this is what I had done. And that goodwill also, I think, for I was always competent in my roles. And even just until last day, before I went on the maternity leave, I was very, very committed to my role and the engagement, whatever I was bringing in each of these technologies. And, even that also played an important role, because for getting those promotions just after my maternity breaks. And I'm proud of that. Not every company looks at, that way, but I've been fortunate players in that perspective, that, the companies looked at my potential and what I bringing in, and they also looked at what I can do for the company going forward. And even though I was at a break, I still have that edge to get, the ownership and the authority to perform to the next level. And that's how I got promoted in these respective roles just after my maternity. So what I'm trying to encourage here is, you don't have to really think that, yes, just because you took a maternity break, people will actually put you into the diversity programs, or, you'll be looked at. No, I don't think so. You can still differentiate yourself by being a good presenter in terms of your skills, learn something new, making sure that, your effort as such is seen in terms of any of these technologies whatever we are working on. So I've tried to give an indicative experience, um, in each of these areas, how you could actually evolve as an individual, as a professional. and how each of these technologies will also look at you, not just as being a contributor to that technology, but as a bringing in a holistic experience for the activities wherever you have been participating in. Okay, so this is what I would like to say. And I'm sure you would also look at the DevOps angle. So how many of you are contributing to the DevOps? And I'm sure most of you are already doing that, but I would like to quickly touch upon that. When you look at the DevOps angle, development and operations, the seamless link which has brought in is to make sure that the development and operations can seamlessly go in. Even now, if you see many of the companies, the administration team, system administration team, and the development team, when they're actually building a particular code, and not necessarily on the GitHub or the practices what are actually we are considering on the DevOps front. I'm talking something different here. When you talk about two different teams working on different scenarios of the development or operations or administration, right? How do we make sure that we are inclining towards what a system administration team would actually face when my development application goes online, right? So this is also another way to look at it in terms of your development activities and the scenarios, the use case scenarios which you can actually build also. You should take inputs from such teams, cross-functional teams who can actually help you evolve these applications. So that kind of engagement is also very important, not only looking at a perspective of continuous integration or continuous deployment, continuous testing on continuous monitoring, but also looking at the angle in terms of the building the use case scenarios. As a development team, if you are actually looking at building some monitoring application for my administration functions to happen the right way, what are the kind of monitoring engagement which typically are looked at? What are the kind of challenges they are seeing? What are the kind of time to time and frequency of these kind of tests and the scenarios which they actually deploy as an administration team? I think when you develop a particular monitoring application per se, you could also brainstorm in this perspective. I think this is where the business analysts also play a role, but not limiting our our talk to business analysts. We can also play an important role in understanding why a certain function, it can actually impact the other cross-functional teams in making their jobs easier. So one example I gave you that continuous, like, let us say, monitoring applications. If you are developing, how do you really bring in that perspective, and how do we really make sure that this kind of an perspective is brought in when you're just, even when you're actually developing the applications at your end, right? And the CI/CD pipeline also, if you see, we are looking at the change management techniques. I think Agile is all about change management. You're actually looking at certain set of features which actually gets developed, and then you also see that each of these, the integration, whichever we can bring in against each of these Agile, iterations, whichever you are trying to build, how are we really integrating them? What is the kind of impact it is going to create? How is it going to get tested once it is live? And how is the deployment happening? So I'm sure most of you could be doing these things, but then how do you really look at the outlook of looking at each of these features, and how is the kind of, what is the kind of impact which is going to brought in by each of these agile iterations we are trying to bring, right? So this is one quick thing which I wanted to touch upon. And even if you see the client server engagements or the APIs which we build in to facilitate that the client server kind of responses and the next level APIs which gets built in. So integrated architecture, as you see that it has evolved not only to the connected apps, the cloud APIs, which we were discussing in the previous slide, like Azure has come by its own APIs and structures for the cloud-based solutions itself. The custom APIs, what we actually also look at, ease of development has also evolved so much that those kind of APIs also have come in existence. The different libraries, there are so many open source libraries which we also use these days to facilitate that there are some common functionalities as to security, or be it the configuration aspects of the application, or be it the common libraries which we take in, whether as simple as the login functions, or be it the test functionalities or the test layers, the security elements or the configuration parameters, right? So how do we really make sure that each of these open source technologies, even though they are available at us, they also pose a risk of in terms of the breach which actually it can also create by utilization of these APIs, right? So how do we make sure that whatever APIs which we are trying to integrate or managing, that such and such APIs in bringing different services together, in bringing two different systems or multiple systems, or whether we are integrating with a legacy system, or be it with a different different set of systems. So here I'll give you an example of a company where we had actually worked in. It's an Hawaiian based out of Hawaii. We had actually executed an application development project for one of the Hawaii based college actually, some around 6 years back. And for them, what we had done is we looked at their legacy systems, we studied their legacy systems, we studied their data schemas, each of these data elements, for each of these. So we did some reverse engineering in understanding those legacy applications, understanding those data schemas it actually is exposing to us, and whatever the APIs we are trying to nudge or build upon, how is these data schemas going to get compatible with the data schemas on the other side of the applications. So they had multiple legacy systems. The problem is it's not about only one legacy system they had. They had multiple legacy systems. The core users spread across the different colleges or the schools which they had been operating in each of these different locations, against that that platforms. They had the challenge that each of these legacy systems were still being utilized, and it was difficult for them to move out of these legacy systems. So we had to make sure that we could not completely do away with the legacy systems. We had to understand that legacy systems have to be core part of these entire ecosystem what we were actually building for this particular company. And the complete ERP system which we were building, ERP system, enterprise resource planning, complete ERP system which we were trying to build for this company, we were also taking into the account on the legacy systems and making sure that the data schemas or the code aspects are also being compatible, data transfers, and between the legacy systems also we had to look at certain orchestration principles and bring in the best practices, making sure that the data connectivity is established between the legacy systems and the ERP solution which we were building, for this particular company. Right. So this is one scenario which I was trying to explain, that how complete companies cannot completely do away with their legacy systems. They would expect us to build connected apps, and wherever we have to bring in the cloud aspect, we also have to make sure that the legacy part cannot be done away. And these custom APIs, whatever we have to build, we will also have to look at it. And I think now with the technology which has evolved so much, and the open source APIs and libraries which are available to us, it has helped us to ease our development efforts. but at the same time we need to be conscious of our efforts in terms of the integration architecture which we are building in, and how heavy it is going to create the overall engagement, how much of how heavy it is going to create for the company to really operate, bringing in the entire system, system of applications together, yet talk to each other in the stipulated times and follow the SLAs, right? So SLAs, the service level agreements between the applications, between the different core functions or the architectural elements, whatever we are talking about, we need to make sure that they are also adhering to the SLAs, the service level agreements, in terms of their connectivity, data porting, data management, data processing, and visuals, final visuals, how what is actually brought into the web API, or the APIs or the web applications, or any of the solutions which we are building in terms of the ERP, or let us say CRM applications, whatever you are building, right? That way. Now we talked about client server architecture. We were also talking about the ETLs, right? The extreme, extract, the transform logic, those kind of batch processing techniques, which also have to be learned through. Not, I'm not saying that you have to learn each one of these, but at one point of the other, you will come across these, these particular technologies. You don't have to necessarily contribute to these technologies all the time, but you should be aware and be conscious about how data transfer is being happening, what kind of impact it is going to create, how is my enterprise application is going to get developed, and what is the kind of structure actually it brings in for my enterprise applications, whether it is for the infrastructure forecasting, budgeting, management of internal resources and infrastructure, or be it for the CRM engagements or the client engagements, client services. So there could be any scenarios of applications which you are building, and any sort of applications which you are trying to connect across platforms, or legacy systems can be on a Linux, which is talking to our application on Windows, but the underlying schemas, you have to ensure that the data schemas are compatible with each other, the data porting is happening, and whether we are going by the ETL transformation, or be it with the APIs, how are we really bringing in that real time and the SLAs into play, right? And legacy system integrations is something which we will have to think through, because most of the organizations, they are looking at the new outlook of building new applications and new age scenarios, using the different technologies which are evolving again in their own spaces, but they also look at the modernization of each of these legacy systems, and making sure that the legacy system as such is intact, but how are we really bringing a top view layer for that legacy system to be viewed in the perspective it needs to be viewed by the respective stakeholders of the company, right? Whether it is an internal employees who are using the applications, or whether it is the clients who are using the applications, or whether it is the vendors who are using the different applications. We also have to look at how do we really create a the viewpoint for each of these legacy systems to really look at from a modernization angle, right? Obviously the cross platform development is something which is, so what I'm trying to say is, whether the underlying technology can be anything, but when you are actually seeing in each of these scenarios and the different practices which has been taken care in each of these areas or functions, you'll have to make sure that how is the other person taking into account, and what is the impact my application development, or the role whatever I'm playing in terms of developing the features or functionalities or the application as a whole, how is it going to create an impact against these different systems which we are trying to bring in together, right? And gaming apps, I just wanted to quickly mention that C sharp, or let us say these have also been contributing factors. What is that you can actually see that, and for the gaming apps also to develop, what is that, the kind of technologies you can bring in, and the data which we have from the clients, our respective data, gamifying the solutions also is becoming a very, new thing right now. Most of the applications right now, you see in the market, they're already seeing how do we really, it's not about, just gaming applications, how do we really gamify the applications whatever we are developing, so for this, for the better client engagement or better stakeholder engagement, or be it, the coaching applications which you have seen already, they are using a gamifying, this thing, training services companies, they are also using the gamifying approach in terms of building the application. So we will also have to see how do we really evolve our outlook in terms of catering to any of these needs, how the industry is evolving as such in each of these areas, right? So what I'm trying to say is, yourself as a programmer, or next level, come in with a domain expertise, understand the domain functionality. As simple as, let us say you're working in a healthcare industry. In a healthcare industry, you probably are required to understand the verification and validation practices, right? To make sure that your application, what you are building, is also impactful, and you're also considering the scenarios of the different verifications, validation practices. This is where, as a product owner, let us say you are also performing a role of a product owner, or product manager, we also look at those different angles in terms of how the domain expertise actually is brought in development of these applications, right? So next, also looking at the business angle in terms of how is it going to create an impact if certain such feature is not being developed, and how is it going to create an impact by not being able to service in a certain scenario use cases which we have not been able to develop in by certain such time. What is the impact it is going to create? Next, I think we are already operating on a data, the Facebook, or let us say, if you open up your Google, in Google, right, you will see that most of the news articles, or be it the different snippets what you see in the Google window, it is actually showing what you have searched past, whatever you have searched in the previous past, what kind of links you have actually gone through, what kind of reads you have done, what is your interest areas. All these things have actually become very crucial, and that's how the Google is already started. You probably observed that the Google is already operating on that front. Netflix, let us say, if you probably observed, if you go to Netflix, the open up your Netflix account, and you see your whatever your past movies which you have observed, the kind of the serials whatever you have seen, I think it will also give you the sense of what other likings you might be having, and portray that kind of data in upfront, in front of you, that you could probably see the relevant movies, or the different other set of serials, right? So this is how the data has also evolved. And again, on the data front, there are two different roles what we have seen evolving as such. On the analyst, as a data analyst, you also analyze how's the customer behavior is, what the customer behavioral demographics has been, what kind of interest they have, in part of which part of locations they have been seeing. So there are a lot of data which can be analyzed on this front. And the data analysts play a very crucial role in terms of putting together this information, processing it, so that our applications which gets developed are actually to the next level. Improvement on the the data front is also seen, and how the data is being utilized to develop these applications, and the different scenarios or the functional aspects also come out. Now, when you see the data scientist, right, data scientist is the next level role. What you They are not, there is an overlapping some certain set of job responsibilities between the data analyst and the data scientist, but data scientist also looks at some statistical scenarios, some statistical techniques they use actually to study the data, some algorithms which they can actually play it against and study the data on a holistic way, the big data aspect, and against that they actually extrapolate the information and present it to the either the data analysts or the business analysts or the overall engagement, whatever the applications are built against, right? So this is where you would probably have to have a mathematical acumen, where you are probably going to differentiate yourself. So these are all different the expertise levels. What we are also seeing that how each of these let us say even the full stack developers are also moving into the data aspects of engagement, what they can actually, based on their observations, based on their previous past experience, whatever they have had in their careers. When you connect the dots, you could also see how each of these, let us say, the healthcare industry, you have a different set of patients and different set of data. This thing, how many each in a one particular, let us say, Apollo Clinic has been operational in 20 different locations in Bangalore. And let us say in each of these locations, what kind of patients come in, what kind of patients come in for diagnosis more than the actual the treatments, what kind of treatments are happening, in understanding what kind of engagement we are able to see in each of these clinics and all that. It makes a lot of difference in terms of how a sales team or the marketing team or a CRM platform or a ERP platform, enterprise resourcing ERP platforms which are utilized within Apollo's, right? Or be it the CRM platforms for being utilized for client engagement. How do we really see each of these scenarios in making sure that our clients are engaged better, clients are being addressed for their issues. Let us say as simple as diagnosis has happened and you ought to receive the report in 3 days, but it has not received, and fourth or fifth day the surgery is due for that patient and he is not received. So these kind of scenario, I'm just hypothetically I'm trying to play a scenario here, but this actually puts the clinic or that particular hospital in a very bad spot. And so constantly these applications have to be on the dot, follow the SLAs, make sure that they are catering to the need of the hour. Now, earlier, there were a handful of hospitals and handful of people going to the hospital. The population has evolved so much now that there is a waiting period for every patient to come for either for a diagnosis or for this. So there are some applications which are built in the healthcare domain itself to improve that data role, right? How many patients can be exercised in a particular stipulated time. If you clearly know that, okay, in this particular time frame I can serve these many patients, these many blood tests can happen, these many ultrasounds can happen, these many these many customer the clients can come and walk in for their first level interaction with the the physicians. So all these things matter a lot for the healthcare industry as well, to make sure that engagement which is seen in the applications what we are developing on the ERP front or the CRM front, or be it internal operations point of view, we are very playing a very important role in terms of bringing that SLAs together, right? The service levels get to the next level and the engagement also improves. And this is where you would see that the hospitals have not been able to up to the mark, and they go down in their quality and service, though they were doing pretty well in certain such time, when they were operating at a previous stages of their experience or whatever they were bringing to the clients. So the industry is also evolving. Similarly, if you look at the financial domain, let us say financial domain also, there is quite a verification and validation practices which actually become core to our financial exercises. So one example I'll give you. One of the my own family relations, what we have seen. What happened around 10 o'clock, around 1 lakh of rupees was deducted from his account. This was a known bank, and it was deducted. And the son and the father, they realized that, okay, oh my god, 1 lakh, why was it deducted? They had no clue of why the 1 lakh was deducted. And this is, believe me, this was a very good bank actually, but why it happened, no one was clueless. And after 2 hours, they have observed that by 12 o'clock again it was deposited back into his bank account. Now, why did this happen? Pardon me, I just um, so what I was trying to say is, why did this happen for this organization? Why, or for this particular the organization to see that 1 lakh or whatever it was deducted for 2 hours, it was not there in his account to but why did it happen? I think we will have to really look at these kind of things. Studies have to be done, and if it is happening in the banking industry very frequently, then the bank has to really take in certain steps in making sure that this has come to my notice because I knew them. But then these things are happening, although the money has not gone out of his bank account, it has come back. But imagine the trauma he would have gone through that 2 hours. And for unfortunately, if he needed that 1 lakh rupees to certain expense, in those 2 hours only, he wouldn't have used, right? I mean, he wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. So these kind of things are happening even for the bigger players in the market. And how do we really make sure that such kind of issues do not happen for this? So there are be it healthcare domain or financial domain, you will have to make sure the sentiments of the people are also being expressed in each of these platforms whichever we are developing. This is where the domain expertise plays a very, very important role, and the business angle also comes into play. Imagine the trauma which was created for this particular old man, and I'm sure he would start thinking that, should I shift my bank, to some other bank, or should I go to some another bank, or should I stick to, right? So at least he got that. I'm sure he would have got that thought. So this is what I was trying to emphasize, that don't just be a full stack developer or a programmer, or just try to see the outlook and how do we really bring in the change for any system to operate in the way it's supposed to operate, and how do we really make sure our efforts are seen from a business standpoint. And many of the companies, I'm sure you probably would have come across, companies are taking initiatives in helping the employees to think like an entrepreneur. Now, why is that? The company employees are being, driven to think like an entrepreneur. Why is that? Right? The need of the hour is that when you as an employee, you also understand the pain a particular business goes through in case if something doesn't happen the way it's supposed to happen, or a new development or advancement which is supposed to happen in the industry, in that particular domain or segment, and that particular for that particular company, the advancement whatever is supposed to happen, the company can crash and also completely go down. So the technological advancement whatever it has to supposed to be bring in at the right time, what it matters to any company, right? So we also have to see those things which actually becomes a very big big thing for the industry, the way we are actually moving forward in the way we are operating in. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is I understand that the technologies angle we are seeing, and the traditional ways of doing the businesses are happening the traditional way. The digital transformation is happening in different perspectives, but we also have to see how is the impact it is creating, what is the kind of engagement it is going to bring, and what is the change which is going to bring in the industry wherever we are operating, right? So this is a slide which I wanted to put together. This is the source is from McKinsey. And I wanted to show you that under the different survey which is done in different organization, how the digital transformations are happening, what are the kind of technologies you should also look forward to, where you can also engage yourself, building that kind of a mindset and improving your skill set in such and such areas, not only to the core development, technological advancement as such in your own skill set, but also looking at bringing at the big picture. So we are seeing the traditional web technologies transformation are still happening, right? Like I was giving you the example of this Hawaii-based college and school, which they have transformed their legacy applications to perform better. They have brought in an ERP system which is sitting on top of these legacy systems and helping these business functions to operate in an effective manner. So that's the traditional web technologies, which every company is evolving in its own space, how each of these companies are operating. Now, coming to the cloud-based services have also picked up, very high in the recent past, especially in the last 10 years, we have seen. And many applications, the APIs have come into play in terms of managing that efforts for Amazon APIs, or for Amazon, making sure that the cloud services hosting which is happening in Amazon for the different applications, whether it is microservices architecture which you are playing against, or MVC architecture which you are playing against. How are you really utilizing these cloud-based services? So many companies have come forward to provide those cloud-based solutions, and helping each of these companies to evolve to that next level and placing themselves in each of these cloud solutions what we have. Amazon and Azure, I'm sure, are the bigger players in the market, but there are many small companies also are providing their own cloud solutions for the small set of companies, the startups, and also for the mid-sized companies are also used, right? So you should be aware of the compatibility, what we are looking at when we are actually developing these applications. Then mobile internet technologies, with the advancement of smart engagement, whatever is our mobile phones are bringing in these days, mobile internet technologies have evolved so much. And this is where the gamified approach also is playing a very important role in terms of utilization of the different apps, and easy access, ease of access, ease of doing operations, ease of doing business, ease of doing activities for the clients, the different stakeholders or the vendors. The different apps have been developed in those perspectives. The mobile internet technologies have also evolved. So as you can see, we are seeing the traditional web technologies, digital transformation is the highest at this point also, and cloud-based solutions, followed by the mobile internet technologies and the big data architectures, whatever we are playing in right now, it is also picking up, because the data is crucial to any company. Like I was giving you the example of the healthcare industry, how they should also see how the data being is utilized and portrayed, and how they can actually evolve their day-to-day activities and functions, right? So the big data and analytics, how do we really see? So Power BI is also an excellent tool, which is actually playing a very important role in terms of analysis as such. And you have the Power BI APIs also, which can be utilized in each of these development and applications. How do we really look at developing each of these? Now the technologies, so many things have evolved over the period of time, so much that you cannot keep up with every technology, right? I don't think anyone can keep up with every technology advancement, and it will bog us down, especially when you're coming after a career break. it'll bog you down of what do I learn, what do I see, how much do I learn, how much do I really look at, and what is the kind of confidence and confidence I'm bringing to my bosses or to the managers, whoever I'm working for, right? So these things will always revolve in our mind. But then we'll also have to see how do we really add on to our additional skill set, the thought process in terms of building our competence in terms of the scalability, availability, reliability, and dependability of applications, whichever we are building, the service levels, whatever against we are operating against, how do we really make sure that the difference is being seen in each of the features and functions we are developing, be it from a domain understanding or be it from a functional understanding. I think this is very core to our our own advancement, I would say. So don't just limit yourself to the career or technology aspect, but you also as a woman or enterprising kind of thought, if you have, actually it will also help you to advance in your career faster. See, that's how I have grown in my own career, in my own journey as such, when I have grown in my respective organization as a techie. And I have seen my advancement happening very quickly. I was the youngest project manager in Infosys. And I was telling you that soon after my maternity break, I had been promoted to the senior project manager just after 2 months. And why do I get that kind of an advantage? Because I could differentiate myself while coming after the maternity, and yet differentiate among all other project managers, and who have been performing in the same space, not just managing the effort in terms of the development, but seeing the business angle, making sure that we are committed to the need of the business and bringing our capabilities against that, right? Now, I'll not touch upon the other areas, but you can see Internet of Things is also picking up. Design thinking aspects is also catching up in a similar way. AI and ML it is still evolving, but I would say that many of the companies have taken steps forward in utilizing the AI and ML space. The companies who have already put their foot into the AI and ML technologies early on years, they have actually done very well in their respective organizations in terms of catering to their different engagements for the stakeholders or vendors or clients, right? And robotics or advanced neuro-linguistic programming techniques has also played a very, very important role in making sure that the way AI and ML, as simple as, let us say, if you see the Naukri platforms, or be it any of these new age hiring platforms which are coming up, right? They are using the NLP practices, behavioral practices, study of behavioral practices in terms of how the people actually want to get hired, want to see how they want to advance in their respective careers. That kind of a data has been very, very crucial for each of these hiring solutions what we see in the markets, to really utilize the NLP practices and bring change in the AI and ML platform, whatever they are using the techniques for developing such and such applications. And that's why you see that each of these Naukri, or let us say founded the monster, everyone is competing in that space, even with the startups which are evolving in this area with these new age techniques, whichever we are seeing. So it is, earlier NLP practitioner used to come in and do HR programs, HR engagements. I think at a scale where employee mindset was being developed, right? Now the same employee mindset as a data is being utilized and being helpful in terms of developing such applications. So can you see the shift what we are actually seeing in terms of the technologies, how actually they are evolving, and each of these technology is being utilized. So I can see that, yes, whether you are actually performing at a scale as a basic .NET developer, or let us say with the design patterns or the architectural patterns, or be it the MVC architectures, whichever you are understanding, the .NET Next, .NET Core level where you are able to function in your organizations, or be it, let us say, next level engagement you are able to bring in utilizing the different technologies, the cloud-based solutions, or be it the the different the MVC core, what has come in, or to the next level where we are seeing the platform agnostic functions or functionalities, applications which we are building against the legacy apps. So I've tried to show you the journey, right, of the .NET also in the first slide. So you can see where do you stand in that journey, and how each of these different elements in terms of the transformations every company is seeing, and how do you really picture yourself in each of those dots, and how can you evolve as a skill, and developing your thought process, whether it is a cloud-based technology aspect or an AI point of view or NLP point of view, as simple as design thinking point of view, or improving your skills in terms of data analytics or data usage patterns, and developing our applications in those sense, right? So this is the slide which I wanted to portray, that so that the picture, that so that you can picture how each of these companies are evolving, and the AI or ML robotics, or be it in the NLP practices, whichever the companies are using, they are still at a very nascent stage. Not all the big corporates are able to utilize these kind of skill set yet. So this is a shift which we also have to see, that the .NET, the way it has evolved is, Microsoft .NET is not just about the code or functionality or developing an application, or at an enterprise level, or at at a bringing in the personalization aspect for the stakeholders, or for the users, or the end users, or internal application users. So there is a personalization aspect also which is thought through, right? In terms of how a finance team perceives my data, which is available in my application, how a marketing team perceives my data, which is available in my application, how a sales team perceives my data, in terms of whatever application is there for the internal operations to succeed for a particular organization, right? So that's a personalization level which you can engage at a department level. Now, when you see at a user level, there are many. I will give you one example of one of the company. They are personalizing the services and the products to the user level, actually, how we can actually bring in personalization at the end user level. So, and accordingly, the data which has been housed in these applications, all the data can be studied, and against that data, there is new process automations can be brought in. There is new data inferences which can be brought in. Against these data inferences, we can play new application features and develop those application features so that we are moving against the advanced way of looking our analytical data which has been projected to us against each of these applications which has housed from so long in the company. And but now they are actually going to the next level of utilization of the data and bringing in, right? So this is where the ML.NET has also come into play. I'm sure you have heard of these libraries, what the ML.NET also is there. So you must be seeing that. I think if you search for AI, ML.NET, I'll probably put this I think link. Let me just say I've noted down for you. So you can actually explore on the ML.NET libraries, what we have. Then, the Azure bot services. Can you imagine the Azure has evolved to the next level where it is giving the bot services in terms of the chatbot functions, or be it the different frameworks where the functions can be utilized on its own, right? Those Azure bot services this is where you can find and learn about the technology. Then you also look at the .NET IoT libraries. This is also, I've tried to note it down for you, where you can actually also look at the .NET IoT libraries. So, take a look at it whenever, you have time as such, how each of these libraries are also evolving. And maybe at an early stage, maybe you can utilize it, or you are not able to utilize it, or maybe you don't have a skill yet, but at least it will give you an outlook in terms of how these different libraries have actually come into existence. and what are these actually different functionalities it is providing as such, right? Other than that, I think I'm sure you have the other common functional libraries I'll not touch upon. You probably know that the Azure APIs or the web APIs, it also provides there are cloud-based APIs which are very very structured for the cloud-based solutions and interactions integration, which is supposed to be done with the cloud applications. So there are APIs and libraries which are available to us on those lines. But I have given you three crucial things because the industry is moving towards that, where the ML.NET or Azure APIs have actually been coming into play, right? Yeah. So I'll give you an example here. Just present your story of a Stitch Fix here. See, Stitch Fix company has evolved, over the years. But the basis of this company when it started off itself, that it actually evolved on the AI and ML, and it has actually used the core data in terms of how do we really bring in the user preferences. It's a personalized styling service company, a styling company, and it provides kids, and men and women clothing actually solutions, and they are personalizing it to the next level. And the personalization also, so when they launched this particular company, right, from the first space itself, they had been able to personalize this aspect, and they are doing very well in the industry. When you see there is big players in the US have actually lost a business in this space, while the Stitch Fix has been doing wonderful job in terms of their market capture, what they have been able to bring in, and also the the engagement whatever they have been able to bring in for the different clients in terms of the personalized feeling which they have been able to get. So data collection, not only data collection, they're collating the data, processing the data, applying the against the AI and ML techniques, and then presenting the data to the fashion stylists. So they are not limiting the solution to just AI and ML for data collection and interpretation, and suggesting the users on how, based on their choices, the behavioral need on, and their demographics, or be it their user preferences. Not only limiting to that, they are also going back to their internal fashion stylists to validate what AI and machine is showing, and then bringing in against the next level personalization touch. So not limiting to the data in terms of the preferred clothing or the styles or the preferences which any individual, as a woman or as a kid or as a men, you personally have. They also are trying to bring in the value adds, and making sure that the customer is presented the Pinterest boards or the different views, or be it the different styling aspects on how they can actually present the different, let us say you're ordering a jacket or a pullover, how each of these can be styled to your need, to kind of let us say woman likes, let us say some women like floral kind of patterns in their the clothing, right? If they like some floral kind of patterns in their clothing, how do we really make sure that that element is also being addressed in the kind of designs which are presented to the user? And fashion stylist is also playing a role. AI has already played a role in terms of bringing certain such designs which are based on the user preferences, the clothing styles which a particular user has. And then again, the styling stylist can also play a role here. So that way they are actually able to build in a value added service for each of the, and they have grown so big, and the cost of engagement has also come down, because here the overall engagement time and time to delivery has come down, right? You order something, you actually also look at the delivery timelines, and depending on the whatever the order you're making, and making sure that that is being delivered to your doorstep. So time to delivery, making sure that your likings are also being addressed without much of intervention or you going to the stores. It is all being done online, right? So that actually, see, so what I was trying to say is, particular scenario of a customer, their need, their preferences, their styles, their the way they would like to figure themselves out as an individual based on their style preferences. All that is being accounted, and then this company addresses with a specific set of designs. And finally, so this is all this particular company, when they started off with this kind of an engagement from the beginning. And the company, obviously, early on, they had actually utilized the AI and data, big data and information, and how they could actually bring in certain such application. So there is a business edge towards serving a customer, not only just serving the customer in terms of the need, whatever he has, but making sure that his preferences, so personalization aspect is also taken care. And second is making sure that he is aware of other set of designs which he could choose from, and finally make the order. So can you see, imagine the confidence this the company is actually creating for and playing in the minds of the consumers, right? So this is what, now coming to the home lane, right? This is another example which I wanted to show. Last example which I wanted to present. So home lane, if you see, right, home lane is also doing something similar here, and which is actually had consumer behavior or observed over the several months. Like, obviously, people who have been coming, what kind of patterns they have been visualizing, what kind of different engagement, whatever they are having in terms of seeing the different patterns, whether it is bathrooms or the different the let us say the bedrooms, or be it the dining area, or be the living spaces, how they are actually perceiving, how they are seeing the each of these they are actually trying to collate that consumer behavior. And it may not convert directly immediately for that particular customer to come in and take the service of home lane, but overall, over the period of time, it becomes convincing for the consumer to come into home lane and see that, okay, wow, this is the different options we have. And while he's exploring the other alternatives somewhere else, he's also saying, see, I'm not trying to promote home lane here, but I'm trying to bring in the thought process in terms of how the consumer behavior is being studied and utilized to understand their preferences, their expectations, and in conversion points, whatever they probably might have in terms of their likings, the kind of observations they have been making, and browsing each of these website and patterns and all that actually takes into an account, and accordingly these guys are able to present some solutions to the customers, and at the same time optimize their that connect and engagement which they are able to build for the customer, right? So this is now how AI can further play a role here. I'm sure the home lane is also evolving and has evolved to some extent already, and these are the different angles what we can actually think of, that predicting the design preferences, like what the Stitch Fix is doing, right? It is actually predicting the design preferences for the consumers in the clothing industry. Similarly, here AI can predict the design preferences of the consumer based on his likings and the browsing patterns, whatever he has. Similarly, the AR and VR kind of angle, what we can actually also bring in, how is the application utilizing the existing data and creating that experience for them in terms of the VR and AR, right? And how do we really make sure that the data in terms of their preferences, their expectations, and the different points which the customer or consumer can get converted, how do we really make sure those elements are also brought into the interior design aspects? So how much of automation can we bring in each of these things, and at the same time building? So with that, I will end this session here, with a note that we have done a similar exercise, business transformation, for one of a small scale company, where it's an interior design company, and how many the interior design companies, small businesses, actually create ERP systems for their own. But the reason why they came to us was 10 customers I'm serving right now, 50 customers I want to serve. Right now, by doing process changes or adding more people, I don't think you can actually deliver to that scale. how it can be delivered is to make sure that we are automating some of the practices in terms of the process whichever we are handling, as simple as taking measurements at the site, or be it automating the cost estimations, or be it this material handling, whatever we are seeing, the preferences of the customer on the materials have been captured, cost estimation have been done on the fly in the application, and bringing it to the consumer's viewpoint on the screen, and helping them to judge in terms of the cost which they want to operate against, the different models which they want to go against, and the different the elements, as simple as the table or whatever they are actually trying to, lights or any other equipment whichever they are trying to purchase for their home. How are they really deciding on the cost factors? So this whole thing gets simplified for this organization by developing an ERP solution. And can you imagine, once this ERP solution was developed, this company has gone out of the way and now giving the same solution to many other interiors companies. So it has become a new business of revenue stream for this company to really look at. So this is what I wanted to quickly touch upon, that it's not about development or something. How do we really see the business angle of development of any function or functionality feature, and how that can actually transform in a particular engagement, not necessarily helping the internal employees, but to our external stakeholders also. So I think with that note, I will end my session here. And I always believe that you have to dream before dreams can come true.